What if everything you have deemed as impossible really was possible? What have you known and believed was possible your whole life? You just didn't know how to actualize it. Come and discover a world of infinite possibilities on Outside the Impossible with Venus Castleberg. On this show, we will share pragmatic tools to create the life and living you truly desire. And now, your host, Venus Castleberg.
Hello, and welcome, everyone. It's very fascinating to me. There's been, up in the world, we'll just say the world, but I'd say there's been a lot of shifting and changing going on, and I had a plan today, and that plan does not look like it's happening, so I'm here with something different. So I was actually pondering that a little bit because, like I said, everything's changing. A lot of different things are changing, with even some jobs that I've had and some places where I've been working with people have been shifting and changing. And then I thought I was going to have a guest today, and then that didn't work out. And so it's like, okay, so what else is possible? And I just think that that's so great to be in a place of everything changing, because I mean, that the truth is the only constant in life is that everything changes. And if you're in the question, one of the greatest questions of Access Consciousness is what else is possible? Like, knowing that even if things are changing and they don't look the way that you thought they were going to look, that the universe is still conspiring for you. Everything is working out in your favor. And then it's like, okay, what else is possible here? Another thing you can ask in those instances of, what else is possible or things are changing is going, okay, what's right about this I'm not getting? Because if the universe is conspiring for you and everything is happening in your favor, then getting that there's something right about it. Now, granted, that may not always be the easiest thing to do when, you had a plan and you thought things were going to work out a certain way, or, there's even these regulations in this reality that say this is how you're supposed to do this. So, for instance, let's use parenting. You're a parent, and in this reality, it says there's a specific way that's okay to be a parent, and there's a specific way it's not to be a good parent. And a lot of times, the parenting piece is based on what we were taught as kids. But if you're looking at, like, what else is possible, instead of going into this, like, okay, this is what I was taught, this is what I was told in any area of your life, this is what I should be doing, A plus B equals C, what if instead it was like, well, what's going to create greater here? What's going to create greater ease? What else is possible that I haven't even considered? Me being a newly parent, I guess, I've definitely had quite a few times where I'm like, okay, does that really matter? What I'm trying to control and make sure she's doing correctly, is that really something that's that important? It's kind of like, there are starving children in Africa. And so does it really matter if she doesn't walk the dog 4 minutes longer? These are the things that actually happen to me in my life. I'm not sure about you, but we all have these fixed points of view about how things should and shouldn't be, rather than being like, what is going to create greater here? I'm fortunate. She's not into drugs, and she's not she's not doing wild and crazy things, definitely not doing anything compared to what I was doing at 18. So I'm like, she's a saint. So it's like looking at those things and just going, okay, I know you were taught there's a way to do business, there's a way to do parenting, there's a way to do jobs and relationships. And what if you threw it all out? What if, you get fixated like me on like, this is the way that I'm doing my radio show. Instead of being like, well, today, what's going to create greater? I could have bagged it. I could have been like, oh, let's just bag it. My guest didn't show up, or, there's a miscommunication. I was like, or not. Like, what if this is an invitation to actually talk through something completely different? And if you're willing to be in that flow of life, everything really can change and get even better. But if you have this fixated plan about how it should look or what it's going to produce or what else is, what you're supposed to be doing, there's not really room for magic. There's not really room for miracles and something even greater to show up. Because you've already decided that this is the way it should look, and this is the right way, and this is the appropriate way and the good way, all to probably avoid doing the wrong way and being bad and looking bad. So what if we let go of all of our points of view and all of our plans about life and just allowed ourselves to go with the flow, to move with it, to ebb and flow, right? There's always things that happen that maybe aren't that great, but what was the gift in that? Because you can look back at almost everything. I know you can, because I have. Like, I look back at the things that were really difficult for me in my life at that time, and how grateful I am that they didn't work out, right? Like that relationship that you had that you thought was the one and it didn't work out. And now it's like you're so grateful that that is not part of your life, right? And so if right now you're like a lot of people, because we do have, things like Mercury retrograde going on right now. So, and things aren't happening the way that you wanted them to or that you think they should, can you see the gift in that? What questions can you ask to begin to look at something in a different way without the point of view that somehow it's bad, it's wrong? Or, this is another one, we also often go to something changed tracks even. And when it changes tracks, somehow you've done something wrong. I know that's where I go sometimes. Like, I'm just like, oh, I did something wrong, and then that's what has it going this way. What if that wasn't true? That was a complete lie. And the change of tracks is just getting you more in alignment with what you've been asking for. It's changing you. It's moving you in a direction to the targets and the things in your life that you've actually asked for, rather than this fixed plan of, if I do this, then this will happen, this, and this. Because remember, the universe likes to surprise us. So if you were going along one way, and then it felt like or seemed like you changed tracks, and now you're going along another way, you could have the point of view and judge the track that you were on, that you're not on anymore, and be like, what did I do wrong? Did I mess it up somehow? Or is there actually a gift in this track? Tracking with me? So, and what if it's even quicker? So, all right, for instance, let's say you've asked for $1 million. and you think you know how you're going to create that $1 million. You're going to do this, you're going to see this many people and this many days a week, and you're going to do this many events and blah, 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 right? You've got this entire plan of how you're going to get $1 million, right? And you're on a track, and you get fixated on that track, and then suddenly you're on a different track. You're doing something different. There's something completely different that happened, right? And then you're like, whoa, wait, I'm no longer on that track. So does that mean now I'm not going to get the $1 million? No. It actually means that perhaps the universe changed your direction, because this way, this path is easier and faster. Sure, if you really want to go back to the old path and trudge through it and force it and try to make it happen, and right, then you probably can, you probably could, and how much more work would that be? I once had a friend of mine who's a Vedic astrologer talk about like taking a leap. When you take a leap, it's like you're saying, I don't know how this is going to go, but I trust that, I'm either going to fly, or, I'm going to sprout wings, or I'm going to be, somebody's going to catch me, something's going to catch me, right? So you never really know when you take a leap of faith, or take that leap, whatever leap it is, right? How it's going to turn out. But when you do take that leap, there is a sense of, okay, I'm trusting myself, I'm trusting the universe that something great is going to come out of this. I'm going to emphasize this again though, just because something great and a gift will come out of it doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable. Doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. There may be a sense of ease with it, but it's not always easy. So for instance, today, like going, okay, I thought I was going to have a guest and I was going to ask a bunch of questions and there's going to be a show about them. Well, I didn't really have a backup plan for what am I going to talk about? And then I'm like, oh, well, everything changed, and everything has changed this week in general. It's been a very big change week. Something about, your birthday. My birthday's coming up this week. And lots of, like, energetically just feel the shift and the change that comes with, not just coming into a new year, but coming into a new possibility, coming into a new way of being. What if every year that you got older, or you don't have to say older, but every year there's an invitation to step into something greater, to step into more of who you truly be, to step into more of what you came here to do, right? So is it always easy to step into more of you, to be the greatness you truly be, right? And what if every year there's an invitation to go a little bit farther, a little bit farther, a little bit farther, right? And we go through these growth spurts that often happen when everything changes. And when you go through these growth spurts, is that just stretching you to show you you're capable of so much more? If, like me, I haven't talked alone on the radio show in a while. So, is that actually an invitation to go, hey, is there something that you might have to talk about, right? Something that you could share that might contribute. So me not necessarily being comfortable today, is that an invitation to something greater and showing me that something else is possible here too? Right? Everything is working out in your favor, even if you can't see how. Every little thing. And the only way that I ever got to like really getting that and understanding that was looking at my past and going, oh, yep, glad that didn't work out. Oh, yep. Glad that didn't happen. Oh, yeah, actually, that was really cool. I'm really super glad I had that. One of the things I'm really grateful for that didn't turn out the way that I thought it was, but is my ex-husband. I guess I should reframe that. Yeah, my ex-husband. And I am super grateful for my time with him and super grateful for him. And he changed my life in so many ways. A super kind man. And I am grateful for him every day and the time we had together. And did it work out in this reality's way? No. And did it turn out the way that I thought it was? No. And am I so grateful for that time? Absolutely. And at the same time, if he and I had stayed together, I would not now have a daughter that was not part of my possibility at that time, right? So there was even greater works in that, and greater possibilities came out of some of the most painful times of my life. So there's always a gift, even if we can't see how and why something might be happening. But we can ask a question. What's right about this I'm not getting? What's the beauty underneath this? I love that. Dr. Dane says, ask what's the beauty underneath this, because there's something beautiful that you have not seen or perceived or know yet. But if you ask the questions, you will gain the awareness. And with that, start to see that everything is conspiring for you, never against you. So I believe I'm going to take a short break here, and I will talk to you on the other side.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organisation, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. Om Times, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Is it time to create a different and greater world? Through research, we can explore paths to new and exciting possibilities. The Hope Foundation for Possibilities and Change is a research-based, not-for-profit organization dedicated to exploring, discovering, and creating a different future for all. Your donations make this happen. You can contribute at foundationforpossibilities.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is Venus Castleberg, and I was talking before the break a little bit about, how everything, even if everything's changing, it is working out in your favor. The universe is conspiring for you. I also wanted to talk a little bit about how important it is in those times when things change that you have your own back. And that you remember that you have your own back, or trust that you have your own back. So what I mean by that is, and I touched on a little bit before, but the knowing that if everything is conspiring for you, then there's nothing to judge. You're not doing anything wrong. You haven't messed up somehow because everything changed, right? It's like my divorce. Like, we had 7 great years together and still really adore each other, and he's happily remarried, and I'm in a partnership with my partner and his daughter and dog. I get a dog too. But that time together, and then when it ended, it wasn't that either one of us was wrong. It was just that it was complete. Like, that had done what we came together to do, and then it was time for us to go do something else, right? And I love this part about our divorce, because our divorce, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, the 7-year itch. Do you know what the 7-year itch is? It actually seems like it could be a thing. Whether it really is or not doesn't really matter, but the premise behind it is that it's 7 years of being with somebody is when you stop pretending to be something you're not. And maybe nowadays, because everything's moving faster, that happens faster. I don't know. And hopefully we're not pretending to be something we're not when we're together. However, in this particular instance, it did happen that way. We were together for 7 years, and then right before our 7-year anniversary, we both just kind of got real with each other and said, for him, he said, I know I said I wanted kids. I don't. And I was like, oh, okay. I was a little surprised. And then, we came together, we kind of sat together, and we just acknowledged, the things that we had said that we thought we wanted that we didn't want. I love access consciousness. I love the tools. I love change. I actually do love change, even though sometimes it's uncomfortable. I love growing and learning and becoming a better person. That's just something that I personally love for me. And that just wasn't something that he said he really wanted to keep doing. He was like, oh, I think I'm good. And I was like, awesome. But I knew that wouldn't work out in the long run because it was so different, right? But it was something that we both had in common and we both really liked to do together early on. But being willing to just honor ourselves and say, okay, this is what's true for me, being brutally honest with ourselves and being brutally honest with each other, gifted us this experience of having probably one of the kindest, most amicable divorces I've ever heard of. We couldn't give each other enough as far as helping each other out and gratitude and, wanting each person to keep everything, not being in that space of what can I get, it was what can I give? I really wanted him to know how grateful I was for him, and that is possible if you're willing to be honest with yourself and with your partner. If I get a little crunchy with my daughter, I'm instantly going, not from judgment, not like I'm wrong or I'm doing something wrong, but from oh, there's something that she's doing that I either used to do myself and I wasn't okay with it, or I am doing it right now in some way. I think that's where some people talk about the reflection. It's not exactly a reflection, but it is oftentimes, if you're blaming somebody for something, it's something that you yourself are doing or have done in the past that you're not okay with. So then looking at okay, I'm, getting frustrated here with her or my partner or, with something they're doing. It's okay, well, they're not really doing anything to me. What is it here that this is trying to show me? What am I not okay with within myself? And that turning the focus back on myself has me say, okay, this isn't working, right? And how can I change it? But not from making myself wrong, just being like, okay, somehow, let's see, for instance, this is an easy one, because I used to be late to everything. And I learned probably 20 years ago that it was so much easier to be early to everything. But then it actually bothers me when other people are late. So I'm still not okay with either the fact that I was late, or it's just like, oh well, everybody has their own rhythm, their own pace, and some people have more adrenaline, I guess is the word, or there's more of an adrenaline pump when they're late. And for some people that actually is how they know they're alive. Like that's one of the ways that they prove to themselves that they're alive. So that's not wrong. Like my way is not right and that way is not wrong. It's just going, oh, okay, then that's what they're choosing. I don't have to choose that. I can choose what works for me and they can choose what works for them. And if we can coexist, awesome. And if not, then we can go our separate ways. If those things, being brutally honest with ourselves and being brutally honest with each other, allows us to give each other a choice. And that's what my ex-husband and I did, was like, here's the choice of what we can choose. And we knew it. I mean, we even said it. We said, all right, here's our choices. We can completely destroy and uncreate this and start completely fresh from here, knowing what we know, being brutally honest with ourselves and each other, or we can choose to go our separate ways. And we chose to go separate ways. It was an honoring of us both to say, it's, that what we desire out of life is different, and that's okay. And we can both go and enjoy that, whatever that is. So that was such a gift and one of the most painful things I've ever gone through. Because to me, he was my best friend. So, and this was a long time ago. So, but it's that being willing to be honest with yourself. I remember Gary Douglas saying, if you're honest with yourself, you can change everything. Which means if you're lying to yourself, you can't change anything. So if you're not willing to see like where you're lying to yourself or where you're pretending something, right? I had a humbling experience at one point where I was like, I really realized what I was doing in my life was my life was about me. And there's nothing wrong with your life being about you. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of us need to make ourselves more of a priority in our lives, but this is different. I mean it in the fact that what I was doing with my life was about like what I could get and what about looking for validation from other people, about looking to feel important in other people's eyes, to have people say I was doing a good job. And if you're not looking to other people for validation, you don't need to if you're actually validating and appreciating and having gratitude for yourself. You would only look for validation from other people if you're not giving that to yourself. So that was one of the places where I got a little brutally honest with myself, because I was like, wow, I'm really looking for people to tell me I'm okay, rather than getting that I'm okay. But when I saw that, I could change it because I saw that that's what I was doing. And then it was like, oh, okay, is that actually working for me? If it's not working, then you can change it. If you see it and you're honest with yourself, you tell yourself the truth, then you can change it. So when I started to go, okay, I'm really in this for what I can get. This is all about me. And I really desire for my life to be about something more than that. And that's when I started to ask, what contribution can I be to the world, to others? It was part of the birth of this radio show. And then how it morphed rather quickly into being able to interview all of these great people who have some access consciousness. They've done some access consciousness. A lot of them have been certified facilitators. But changing, they, really are, most of them really desire to change the world for the better, right? So for me, it's been really fun to say, oh, I get to interview these people and have people in the world know more about them. Because some of them, maybe some people haven't ever heard of. So it was just kind of like, oh, that would be so fun because it's a contribution to others getting out in the world more. And it's not necessarily spotlight focus on me. But I will say that it doesn't have to be either or. I mean, sure, I get some exposure. It's my radio show and, I get some exposure too. And we spotlight these other people. But then, like today being a prime example, it's like, well, what about having a show every once in a while where you share some of your wisdom? I was like, oh, oh yeah, that. But then it's still about, for me, and this is just where I am in my life now, is like, what can I contribute? What would actually create greater ease in the world? And I mean, I remember a while back when I first started massage, that's how I kind of started on this transformation journey. Massage and landmark education and hypnotherapy. And when I started that, I remember saying, because I was asked, somebody said, if you had an ideal world, what would it look like? And I said, well, my ideal world, the world would be free from sickness and pain. Well, one of the things I noticed was that then I was focused on changing people's sickness and pain, right? Which, if what you focus on, you get more of. So since Access Consciousness, which the mantra of Access Consciousness is all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. Now that's ease, not easy necessarily, but we already talked about that. And with that mantra, I was like, okay, what I really desire to contribute is what can I contribute to creating greater ease and joy in the world? What can I contribute so that people know that they have a choice? You always have a choice. How you see the world and what's happening to you, it's not happening to you for one, but how you see it is completely up to you. It's only a point of view. It's a point of view whether the glass is half empty. It's a point of view whether the glass is half full. It's a point of view whether there's water in the glass. Well, actually, that's a fact. The fact is there's water in a glass. Whether it's half full or half empty is a judgment. It's just a point of view. Whether you're on the right track or the wrong track is just a point of view. If you just knew that you were on track, doesn't matter what track you're on track, that's actually a fact. You're on track. You're going to get where you're going no matter what. Now, you may take the long and windy road, for sure, or you could take the shorter route. Neither one is right or wrong, good or bad. Neither one is better than the other. One is just shorter than the other. But even shorter isn't necessarily better. So, for instance, think about like something that took you a little while to learn, but then when you learned it, like you really owned it, right? I don't know if it was a foreign language or there's making jewelry or something like that, but maybe it didn't come super quick and easy to you. and it took a little bit more time. Do you regret that more time? Or was that time valuable too, right? I don't regret that 7 years of my life I spent with my ex-husband. Absolutely not. And some people would be like, oh, wow, that's a good chunk of time. I mean, I know others that have spent longer than that with somebody, and longer than that with somebody that wasn't working, right? Again, they're not wrong. Every choice you make creates awareness. So whether you choose the fast path or the slow path or the hard path or the easy path, or it doesn't matter which one you choose, you will gain awareness from any of them, right? So what if your choice wasn't wrong, it was just making a choice and then not judging whether it was the right choice or the wrong choice? That's the big one. So I think we're going to talk more about judgment on the other side of the break. So I'll start that now, and then I'll be like, oh, well, let's talk about judgment when we come back.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hello and welcome back. I was right before the break. I was like, oh, judgment. Yep, we probably should talk about judgment a little bit. No shoulds, because should is actually a judgment too. Imagine that. So if you're going along and something changes and you're on one track and you end up on another track, you can go into this point of view of somehow the other track is the right track, this is the right track, that's the wrong track, whatever. And then, like I said, if you weren't judging if it's the right track or the wrong track, and that you're just on track, knowing that you're going to get where you're going, no matter what, you are going to get there, then can you avoid being in judgment of you? So judging you kills what's possible. I know I've said this before, but it's it stops creation. It pretty much stops everything. And it takes you down this rabbit hole of, because it usually perpetuates on itself, right? And you judge you, and then you find another reason to judge you. And then if you're one of those people who's trying to give up judgment, and then you catch yourself judging you, then you judge you for judging you. none of that really creates anything. So what if you are not wrong? What if nothing you're doing is wrong? It's just a choice. You can choose something. If you don't like the results, you can choose something different. But that doesn't mean you make yourself wrong because the results didn't come out the way that you wanted them to, right? It doesn't mean now that we're talking about, okay, are you being honest with yourself? Are you being honest with your partner? Whatever, right? Like if you realize that you're not being honest with yourself about something, that's the first step to changing it. But if you judge that you're not being honest with yourself, then that stops possibility. It stops questions. It stops this energy of like, okay, what else is possible here? So you're going along one way, things change. Suddenly you're going another way. There's nothing wrong. You can't F this up. So I love this question because I've often asked it of myself, like, what would you choose if you knew you could never fail? So and I'll say it a different way because we're in this judgment thing. What would you choose if you knew you couldn't get it wrong? What would you choose if there was no bad way or right way or wrong way? Like, what would you choose? And then, like I said, choose it, try it out. If it's not working for you, choose something different. Maybe it's just another question, like, how does it get better than this? What else is possible here that I haven't even considered? Like, asking that question then opens this realm of like, oh, okay, there's something else possible here. What's the beautiful thing underneath it? What's right about this I'm not getting? Allows you to get out of judgment about it being bad or wrong, or, because it's not what you wanted or what you thought it was going to be, but it gets you into what else is truly possible now. It's like an exploration. It can be an adventure. What if every change in your life, whether big or small, was a new adventure? Would that be different? Would you look at it differently? Would you perceive it differently? Like, oh, we've heard it in different ways, like every ending is a new beginning, which is true if you really think about it. Like, you end something, there is something new being born here. Every end of one year is the beginning of a new year. Well, we can focus on, the things that didn't happen last year, or can we be excited and enthusiastic about the things that are going to happen this year? Whether all of it though, right? Because it's all an adventure. You have no idea how tomorrow's going to go. You might have like a vague picture. You might even have a calendar. You have it all planned out. Like, I'm a planner by nature. I know that about myself. I'm better than I was. I had a shaman teacher once tell me I couldn't plan anything for 3 months. That was challenging. It was also a great practice for me because it showed me that I don't have to plan everything. And I was more surprised. There was more magic that happened in that time period because I didn't have it all scheduled out. I could really be in the question. One of the things we talk about in Access Consciousness is following the energy. Right. But if you have such a set regime for your day or your calendar, it's harder to follow the energy because you're like, no, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do this. Right. So then you're not in question. It's not like, what's going to create greater ease for me right now? So a great example would be like, I need to go to the DMV and get a new driver's license. And I'm like, and I've got, a few days. I don't usually wait this last minute to get things like this done. And I was like, I didn't know it was going to expire. So my driver's license is about to expire. And I'm like, well, I should, which is a judgment. If you're in shoulds, it's a judgment. I should go to the DMV today and take care of that. And I'm like, is that going to create greater ease in my life? And I'm like, I get no. Now, I would have logically thought it would, like, get it done. That, for me, a lot of times having things completed does create a sense of ease. But today, it was a no. So I was like, okay, what would create greater ease for me? And I really get that I'd like to go out into the sunshine, go for a hike. So it's like being willing to follow the energy and not getting fixated or having a point of view about when things should happen and what, how the time and like that fixed point of view, and being like, okay, I'm going to ask a question here, allows for greater possibilities. It really is where the miracles show up, and where you might, I dare you to try it, you might actually start getting how much more the universe has your back because of all of the magic and miracles that would come out of you just being willing to follow the energy and be like, okay, what's going to create greater ease in my life, and going and doing that rather than what's the right decision, what's the wrong decision, and always thinking you're choosing the right and the should based on that's going to somehow produce or create what it is that you want to create in your life. What if what you've been asking for could come a whole heck of a lot sooner if you got out of your own way? And what I mean by getting out of your own way is that you got rid of the judgments that you have on yourself, the fixed points of view, the interesting points of view. All interesting points of view are judgments, by the way. All the planning and being like, it's got to look a certain way before like A plus B has to equal C. So this has to happen, and then this has to happen, and then I'll do this. Like, have you ever thought, this happened for me more recently. I was like, I really desired to hire some people to help me with my business. And I was like, how do I do that? And I was kind of waiting for, once I have, this amount of money in my bank account, I can afford to hire people and blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's not really a question. And turns out there's actually people out there that want to come work for me that don't necessarily require money up front, right? So there's other possibilities, but if I wasn't willing to ask a question and I wasn't willing to ask some people, I wouldn't have known that there was another possibility. And I would have kept waiting for all the money to be in the bank before I hired somebody, which is way past when I actually need people to help me. So again, it's not linear. This reality really wants us to believe that life is linear, and that if you do this, then this will happen. And what if it could be so much more easeful and miraculous and joyful if you weren't fixated on it needing to look a certain way? If you hadn't gotten fixated on that path, or let's say even that relationship, you're like, this has to be the one. This is the one, right? Forever and ever, amen. That never gets you the space to go, you know what? I adore you. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful for the time we had together, and it's time to move on. And I've heard of and known many people and friends of my own that, would never do that, or waited a lot longer because they were waiting for their kids to grow up, or, whatever it is, right? We all have, or they keep thinking, this is another one too. They keep thinking that person's going to change. So I'll let you know in a little secret. If they don't do it when you first get together, they're not going to do it 20 years later. And I know some women think they can train their men to put the toilet seat down. Truth is, is that really a kindness? And, like, what they do now is what they're going to do in the future. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like, but that's honoring them and honoring you and being like, okay, so you could ask yourself this. Let's say you're starting to date somebody and you're like, they don't put the toilet seat down. If they never put the toilet seat down for the rest of your life, and you just happen to be one of the people who ends up with somebody for, a lifetime, can you be okay with that? And if you can't be okay with that, then that's not the person for you. And I know this might be opening a whole new can of, conversation that maybe we'll talk on the next time. But if you're expecting them to change, then that's not honoring them. And then, but then you bending, stapling, and mutilating yourself, if that's something that's not going to be okay with you, then that's not okay either. So this is, I can't emphasize this enough. It's like when you honor you honor everybody else. So this is the place where honoring you is the most important thing, because that becomes the kingdom of we. And honoring what's true for you, trusting yourself, having your own back, knowing that whatever's changing in your world is working out in your favor, like, you will start to have the tools and the awareness of well, truthfully, anything is possible. Like, there's nothing that you need to fix. There's nothing that you need to change. There's no plan or formula to getting life right. What if it was just about living your life and taking every day as it comes, because it's always going to be different. I don't care how much plans you have. Even if you have a work schedule, the way that you get to work is going to be different than you did the day before. I mean, sometimes I have to drive in a snowstorm. And then the next day it's 40 degrees and sunny. So if you allow for everything to change in your life and everyone to be themselves, there will be very little upset in your life. There will be because the only reason you get upset about something is because you've been attached to a point of view. You've been attached to it's the way that something is going or a way it's not going. Gary Douglas wrote an amazing book. I highly, highly recommend it, called Pez Juniors. And it's projections, expectations, significances, rejections, and separations. And that's really, and they're all judgments, right? So there are all these points of view that we have that things should be a certain way and turn out a certain way. And when you let that go, you can have an infinite amount of possibility in your life. You can have so much more than what you're fixated on. So let's even say you're fixated on that $1 million, right? If you're fixated on $1 million, what happens when you reach $1 million? Do you stop creating? Or do you set a new target? Can you see that, and also if you get fixated on how you get the $1 million, then if $1 million, so this is a funny story, but it has actually happened. You guys remember that? I know you've heard this story, right? There's the guy who's in a flood and he's on top of the house and he's like, please God, come save me, come save me. And a boat comes by and says, hey, hop on. And he's like, no, God's going to save me. and then he goes, please God, please save me. And then a helicopter comes. He's like, no, God's going to save me. And then I don't remember, there was probably another couple times, but right, he pretty much prays to God to save him, and all these possibilities come by, a floating inner tube, you name it, right? And he's like, no, God's going to save me. And then he drowns, and he goes to heaven, and he says, God, I prayed to you, why didn't you save me? And he said, I sent you an inner tube, a boat, a helicopter, but that person was so fixated on it looking a certain way, he couldn't see all the magic and miracles and all of the possibilities of being saved that were floating by, right? Or coming around. So that's what I'm saying here is like, there's so much more possible and available if you were to just let go of the how and the when and the what it should look like, the plan, the strategic planning that you're doing to formulate your life. You can have so much more. Anything really is possible. So grateful for those of you who are listening and being out there, and we'll talk again next week. Have a great week.